Welcome back to Tran wins Siralim Ultimate. We've got a bunch of piety points because I finally got around to turning in my prophecy cards. So let's go ahead and awaken many of these relics. I just never got around to going gambling, and that was really stopping me from turning in the cards. So I went ahead and spent some of my tickets to do that. It's just very slow, and so I can attune maybe 5 of these, assuming that stays at 25,000 piety each. I don't know what to get really, because I've got all the intelligence ones. So my choices are 1 attack, 1 defense, and the 2 defense, 3 defense, 2 speed. Let's see what the final rank of each thing is. Attack 1 each time for each dude that's poisoned. Cast a healing spell on a blighted, and then I cast major healing on the target. Okay, gain speed, has a 30% chance to get rebirth, casts earthquake, which removes minions. I don't have that spell yet. The bear has 25% chance to start battles at the top of the timeline. Yeah, sure, let's do that one. Don't really see anything needed for my teams on that one. Sure, let's go ahead and get this one. Kind of like confused. It's fun. I get 2 more. Can afford 1 more. So one of these 3, Dusk and Dawn, Lamora, and we'll get Lamora. There we go. So in about 2 more cards, I should have enough to unlock the rest of these, and then we'll finally start ranking these up some more. Burning Lamora, Burning Salus, Burning Star Wrath, and 1,000 Needles. Also picture an ace. Alright. Alright, I think I will go ahead and level up Salus, which will get me Mending. There we go. So all of these characters have existed in the series at one point or another. I have never tried to make a team out of them or doing it this way, however. The team is mostly about having hit points. Alright, so our first guy, he's just there to give us leverage at the beginning of the battle. He has darkness surrounding, and unfortunately I did not give him Division of Mortality. So I think I may try to set up an entire team of darkness surrounding Division of Mortality people. So with battle, he's got battle from within, so that'll hopefully curb stomp the first set of monsters, and then we can just start laying spells on them or something. For this guy, these 2 are pretty much the same. They both have Stay Dead and Division of Mortality. And then this one has Kana, which allows him to start by casting spells as soon as battle begins. And this one has Scant Stamina, just to keep the enemy off my back. The Satyr is a support class character, allowing me to go through the battles faster because the enemy will only attack once, such as when they have some sort of a shadow jumpers or something, where when they start dying they can attack. I don't need them attacking 66 times. And of course they'll be silenced for that 1 turn. For his item, it just gives him extra damage because of his high defense, which is an old item from one of those demigod monsters that I had. The Phase Knight is always a favorite. He reduces indirect damage by 80%. He also allows me to smack myself in the face and not kill myself. And finally, he's got Secret Recipe so that when he is revived, everybody else is revived. So he is basically a backup attacker. He doesn't really, he's just there, really, if I needed a sword. And I probably won't. Finally, we have our Revive Medic person. And just by existing, he will revive allies. He keeps me from taking too much damage at any one time. And should he die, he will revive everybody else. Alright, let's take a look at their gems. So on my Mimic, because he does not have Division of Mortality, I give him harder hitting spells. They're still based off of his health. So I customized these spells just for him, actually, because I needed death magic for him. For the Malignant Spirit, because he has Division of Mortality, he's really about getting multiple hits in so that he can have 100,000 damage added to each individual hit. So he's got Death Blossom, Meteor Shower, and Adrenaline Rush. For the Koloss Firebrand, it's very similar. It's got Death Blossom, Meteor Shard, and Adrenaline Rush again. The only difference are the last 3 spells. This one has Holy Blast, which pairs nicely with Judgment and Warped Reality. And the Sorcerer has the ability to scorn enemies or silence them as needed. The final spell for the Koloss Firebrand is Flourish. It has less health than Requiem, which I've been using, but I've eventually unlocked Flourish at some point, I don't remember when. And this has more charges. I don't feel like the moderate amount of health is going to save the guy. If I'm reviving people, I'm probably in a kind of a bad situation. I'd rather have the more charges. Alright, the Satyr was one of the support characters. He just has Rapture if he needs to use it. Purgatory if I need to move the timeline. And Mass Dispel if I need to get rid of something like Confusion or Disarmed. For the Phase Knight support character, he's kind of a striker, essentially. He's got Cyclone Strike if he needs it. Chaos Orbs if I need to shut someone up, and Dark Whispers if I need to let my guys cast more. Finally, for our Revival guy, he's got Star Pact. For damage, Lifeline, which is meant for generous, so I can just heal myself, bam! And Covenant, which is also generous, but if he needs to cast Rebirth on himself or on anybody, this is my guy. So that is my team setup. Again, these are all characters that I've had throughout the series, but I've never had them set up as this team. Let's see if this team is worth it at all. We're gonna now head to floor 205 with an impressive item bonus of 335%. Okay, hold on. I deliberately brought this guy so you couldn't attack that many times. If we look at my creatures, I brought a Satyr so the enemies can only attack 1 time per turn. I guess this is not working out, because that enemy Dusk Ossian kept attacking, as you can see right here in the middle of the screen. And then the enemy Bloody Ossian B attacked. Like, I know that's their trait. If we look at the Ossians, one of them has a trait that says when they come back to life, they attack. Sure, that's fine, but I should only be limited to 1 attack. Ossians. After your creatures are resurrected, they attack random enemies 3 times. If you guys are gonna attack anyways, I might as well just not use the Satyr Guardian.
Look, brother, it is the esteemed ruler of Sanctuary. Indeed. Quite a problematic little kingdom, that is, wouldn't you say, brother? We must take this opportunity to rid these lands of Tran and Sanctuary once and for all. Baronia!
We're 100% sure they're upset about the wrong kingdom, considering you haven't done anything wrong. But it seems as it's too late for talk now. You order your creatures to attack. One of the reasons why I've got this team set up so hardcore is I want to try to rush my way to the finish line here, because I think I'm running out of ideas of new and innovative builds. I've been spending a lot of time off camera trying to make these really awesome builds, but they're not quite turning out as awesome as I'd like them to. I have spent several hours creating this really awesome spreadsheet. At least it's awesome to me, because I wanted to set up my macros, and I thought, okay, what I really need to do before I set up my macros is figure out how efficient each spell is. So, real quick, I'm just going to show this a little bit. These are the base stats for my characters at the time I was putting these in. And then these are the modifiers. So for example, this is his helmet modifier, 3.36, because his helmet increases him by 236%, and he exists, so he has 100% by himself. So that's 3.36. Then he gets similar for his Forsaken ability, he gets 250% more, and he exists, so that's 350% of that health. That's the way it works. When we enter battle, you'll see this data is a little bit older. But when you enter battle, you'll see that he goes from about 19,000 health to over 200,000. This is accurate within a few hundred. At the time I wrote this anyways. It varies. For whatever reason, like in one battle I'll be 218,000, the next battle I'll be 219,000. So it actually just switches. Same thing for these modifiers like attack. Average defense is just my party's average. So this way I can simulate say, a spell against an enemy with that average defense. And this does not count artifacts, so enemy defense can actually be higher than this, and that's okay. So this indicates, for example, what gems I have modded in it. This is a death gem. It can cast twice at 97% and has 67% potency. Extra target, I didn't really find a good way to do this. I really wanted to have 0 or blank if they didn't have an extra target, and 1 if it did. But for now, this is how I've got it to work. We've got defense penetration as one of the spell mods, or whatever you want to call it. And then if it's devastating, it's 150% spell damage and 40% spell penetration. That's what I call it. And if it's massive, it's 130% and 30%. All right, so each one of the characters, each of these characters have the following gems, and this is basically how it looks. And I wanted to make sure that I was using the gems as best I could, because it's been a while since I created an awesome macro set. Mostly because I kept fluctuating and changing my team. This is a solid enough team that is both fast and robust. It's flexible, so like I can adjust to many situations right now, anyways. So look at that ugly formula at the top. That's really nasty looking. Basically, let's go ahead and have it highlight. It takes now it's not 100% accurate, because for example, you'll see these 167% potency of health. I'm fairly sure that the Kolas Firebrand's trait does not count towards potency of health in this formula the way I'm calculating it, but it's really good enough. This is the way I kind of assume things work. So we have here C2, which is just his health, multiplied by the potency of health. So I would assume that I'm getting 67% of his health as extra bonus. Added to G1, so whatever this result is, whatever the 67% of this is added to his intelligence. Then that is multiplied by F4, which is how many targets he's casting it on. Now, although Cyclone Strike can count as a single target spell, and you can even tell it to cast on a second target, I was not able to see more damage happening if you put that property on your spell gem, so there's no point. Then we have then we're going to multiply that result with how many targets we're casting it on with I4 plus G4. That's going to be here and here. So my base spell damage for the massive, devastating, large, moderate, whatever, plus whatever properties I might have, which I don't generally use this one, at least not on these guys I didn't. Then I'm going to multiply that by 1 plus D4, which is how many times I'm casting it. So I figured out what my damage is, and then I'm going to multiply that by how many times I'm casting it, and then it's going to hit the enemy. Okay, again, this actually is not the real formula. This is not, because I actually do way more damage than is displayed here. But this just kind of gave me a good idea of how I wanted to organize my spells. I knew Meteor Shower was going to do more damage. But for example, we can compare that to Blistering Radiance. It does a lot more extra damage than Blistering Radiance, which we already knew ahead of time, but this kind of gives me a value set of where I should start putting my spells. So for example, if I have Arcane and then go ahead and just cast Meteor Shower, otherwise just keep using Death Blossom. It has more charges than Meteor Shower, so it's more of a free spell essentially. Basically, I'm able to prioritize what I'm working on. These numbers here, that's just me trying to figure out how many people they should cast Holy Blast on if they saw it. I tried to clean up my notes before hitting the record button, but I must have missed that. The attack damage, and again, my formulas may not be correct, but this is essentially his attack. And these guys don't have modifiers. Towards the bottom they do, so I have to make sure I'm actually counting that. But it's their attack minus the defense. That's all it is. For the Spirit and Firebrand, it actually adds their attack and their health because they're using the Division of Mortality ability. So this is assuming that they're at max health. That's why they can actually have a damage value for hitting things. Whereas my Mimic, well, if my average opponent has 8,000 defense, I have less than 8,000 attack. Let me check to see if my Satyr is, my Phase Knight is actually counting the right attribute. It is not, so let's go ahead and move that down there and there. So he can actually hit someone in the face for 15,000 damage, if this is correct. My Kalasag doesn't really do too much in the terms of physical attacks. Let's see, where does he rate? He doesn't have any artifact modifiers for that. Down here is just my notes, so I can convert formula-wise. So if I see something that says moderate damage, I'll be able to calculate that. And the reason why these numbers here, for example, the Mimic, he can cast Blistering Radiance, but he would cast it without all these modifiers. He's just going to cast it straight up. Spell damage or spell penetration versus average defense using his intelligence. he doesn't get these modifiers when you're casting a generous spell. So that's why it's much, much lower. It's almost not worth it doing. He's probably better off provoking or something just to take the heat off someone else. But this gives me an idea. Now, these damage values are not totally accurate, but these attribute values totally are. Let's go ahead and launch the game, and I'll see you inside. Here we are. Let's take a look at my macros. I spent a lot of time on it, so I've got to show them off. That's not really a good way to look at that. But you just have to trust that these are the macros that have been assigned. So for my first guy, the Forsaken Mimic. To begin with, they all kind of have a general AI pattern. If there's lots of dead allies, go ahead and throw a flourish out there. If there's some confusion going on, go ahead and mask the spell. There is some variance in it. So for example, my Death Satyr, he will only cast Mask the Spell if everybody's confused. Otherwise, he doesn't really care if he's confused, he'll just provoke. That's fine, his spells aren't that important. But for example, I don't want my Mimic blasting my party to death. Now that being said, for example, before we talk more about the Mimic, let's look at some of the other confusion things. For my King Kalasag, if he will not cast it if he's confused. He will save his Mask the Spell, because he's using a generous gem on it. He will save that for when he's disarmed, because when he's disarmed, he can't use his Pandemonium Rebirth. So it's more important to me to wait and bide my time for any confusion to wear off on King Kalasag. But if he's disarmed, we could be in trouble. So we're leaving that alone. All right, back to the Forsaken Mimic. So basically, if he has Arcane, go and throw his best spell out. Go and throw out Rapture, which has few charges. So it's good for making the enemy vulnerable. If he's not blind and it's been a few turns, go ahead and throw Rebirth on himself. If the enemy has less than 30 health, go ahead and throw a Judgment. This may not kill the enemy, but at least he's only got one charge. So if the enemy has, for example, 28% health because they got hit, they won't die. I can't go more accurate than that. And of course, if this is a boss enemy, they won't die. Also, it might just be easier to cast, say, Cyclone Strike and kill off any grievously wounded enemies, and maybe hurt or kill off healthy enemies at the same time. But again, I just wanted to vary up my spells. I wanted to try to use many of them, so we can consider this one way to save on charges. If the enemy has a lot more health than that, and there's 3 or fewer, maybe this is some battle that's been going on for a while. So check to see if the enemy has some buffs. If so, go and launch a Holy Blast at that guy just to get rid of him. This will allow me to eventually Warp Reality him, because many people are sharing Holy Blast, Warp Reality combos of some sort. It may vary though. For example, the Forsaken Mimic has a greater threshold that needs to be met before he will blast somebody. Whereas my weaker guys, they'll blast more frequently. Alright, so if he's not silenced or whatever, just go ahead and Cyclone Strike, Rapture, Steel Storm until you run out. If the enemy is not scorned, meaning if the enemy's not scorned and he's not silenced, go ahead and suppress him. That's more important to me to keep them silenced. If they're not silenced and they're not scorned, and after all of that, go ahead and Blistering Radiance them. Again, if I can't silence them, then at least scorn them. Otherwise, go ahead and attack. I must be out of spells by this point. So that's what the Mimic looks like. The Satyr, he's more of a support character, so you can see that his script talks less about damage and more about backing up my team. So for example, we can see here that if there's 2 or 1 dead enemy and nobody has Arcane, go ahead and throw a Dark Whisper out there. The reason I want this is I don't want him to spend, let's say it's gonna be a turn 1 kill. I don't need him to cast Arcane. So maybe something's going on and there's a couple dead guys. Just go ahead and throw that out there. He's a lot more willing to cast Rebirth on my team, on allies 1 and 6, but he doesn't really possess a lot of attack power. King Kalasag, that's my medic. The spells here are mostly about keeping himself alive so that he can keep the team alive. All right, had to fix that for a second. Okay, let's relook at this. If ally 1 is alive and King Kalasag is hurt, then go ahead and lifeline yourself. The reason for this is if my Bioslime-ish character... Hold on, I need to check something. Five, okay. That changes things. Alright, I changed all the references to Ally 1. If I need to tweak this, we'll tweak this as we go. You can kind of see the magic happen. Let's Let's move on out. Do I have any piety that I want to spend here? Actually, I do have some piety. I might be able to get both. Let's go and unlock Dusk and Dawn and Prime Inventus. Yeah, we're good. Let's start leveling up Pharaoh. It really would be nice if it showed me somewhere who was equipped with it at this moment. So we've got here the Arbiter is being equipped on my Pandemonium Rebirth at the moment. So we'll have to look at that later. But we still have the staff and the sword. Okay, well that's all we can go. Alright, to begin with, I have Kana, so my character is very likely to cast one of his damaging spells. The game counts Warp Reality as a damaging spell, but not Adrenaline Rush. We take a look at his spells. It doesn't count Adrenaline Rush, even though, I mean, I consider it damage, but sure. I guess it just triggers him to attack, so not a direct damage spell. Blistering Radiance does count. Magic Suppression doesn't, because it just affects intelligence. So as he runs out of spells, he will skip Adrenaline Rush and Magic Suppression, but I can still manually cast these. You can see that he's lost a charge of Blistering Radiance. He must have, on his Kana, been triggered to cast Blistering Radiance and just didn't need to show because the enemy was dead. He must have cast Meteor Shower twice as well. Alright, so he didn't trigger that time, but my Mimic possesses Battle from Within. And we'll go ahead and macro him out. He decides that he's going to cast Cyclone Strike and finish him off. Good, he wasn't close enough to be killed by Judgment. And I get a card. Nice. Nice Judgment! Alright, so they're trying to magic suppress this guy because the one on the top right does not have silence. I want to go ahead and take command here and just tell him, we'll go ahead and rapture you. Just go away. Because that guy in the top right was immune to debuff, so he would never get silenced. Alright, let's try the boss. Please don't be a hard counter against me. Please don't be a hard counter against me. Etta.
Welcome back, my beautiful little friend. I certainly did not expect to see you ever again. Consider me pleasantly surprised. You must have missed me oh so much.
Not so much, honestly.
Come closer. I have something to show you. To give to you.
You ignore Etta and stand in place awkwardly as she crawls towards you.
Yes, closer. Let me show you what I can do for you.
You stifle a laugh before commanding your creatures to attack. They're all gonna go ahead and Judgment her, but that's fine. I'm gonna let that happen, just so that I can see more of the macro play out. Take a look. The enemy has... I have less damage dealt, so that is something there. They're also strong against nature, which is my phase knight. That's not a big deal. And they have good luck. Alright. They have wyverns, though. Let's see here. Alright, nothing too big for me to worry about. So I think I've created a fairly effective magic team. Alright. Some cool gifts here. Thank you.